Puerto Rico is an invisible island. You hear what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, what happened in Puerto Rico never happened at all.
The Jones Act is a nearly 100-year-old law that requires everything ferried between U.S. ports to be carried on ships built, owned, and operated by Americans.
Millions of Americans in Puerto Rico are desperate for basic supplies, food, water, and fuel. But a nearly century-old shipping law is making it harder for foreign ships to help deliver that aid. The island is in dire straits and urgently needs help. The power is out for more than 3 million U.S. citizens there, with food and clean water scarce or non-existent. Clean water, particularly in many areas. The New York Times reported on the problems in hospitals, many of which are closed or having to turn patients away because they don't have supplies or electricity. Many parts of the island remain flooded, with communications poor and long lines for generator fuel, food, and water. And even when supplies do arrive, the struggle is far from over.
The Jones Act is Section 27 of the Merchant Marine Act of 1920. And under that law, Puerto Rico is specifically prohibited from developing its own shipping industry. Any boat that comes into Puerto Rico cannot be a foreign registry vessel. It has to be a U.S. vessel. It has to pay a schedule of fees, duties, import quotas, taxes, a whole schedule of costs that then get passed on to the Puerto Rican consumer. Everything that comes into Puerto Rico ends up costing 15 to 20% more. Now, Puerto Rico is an island. It has to import virtually everything, including its food. 70% of the economy was agriculture. In 1900, agriculture is now 1% of the Puerto Rican economy. So everything that comes into Puerto Rico ends up costing 20% more. If it doesn't come in directly, it can go to Jacksonville, Florida. It gets offloaded off the original foreign registry vessel and then reloaded onto an American boat. And then that U.S. boat is allowed to come into Puerto Rico. But that process creates a cost of about 15 to 20%. There's no logical reason for it other than it provides price protection to every corporation that is sending goods into Puerto Rico. Talk about the so-called debt of $72 billion. Well, the price differential that these corporations are benefiting from is roughly about $6 billion a year. If you multiply 6 times 96, that's $576 billion. Puerto Rico supposedly owns a little over 70 billion. So you could have paid this supposed debt 8 times over if it weren't for that one act, the Jones Act.
As many of you know, Hurricane Maria made landfall on the island of Puerto Rico on September 20th. It's something that is very personal to me because my mother's family is from Puerto Rico and many of our family members still live there. I was surprised to find out that nearly 50% of Americans didn't know that Puerto Ricans are United States citizens. Although Puerto Rico isn't a state, it is a U.S. territory.
The island is in dire straits and urgently needs help. The power is out for more than 3 million U.S. citizens there, with food and clean water scarce or non-existent. Clean water, particularly in many areas. The New York Times reported on the problems in hospitals, many of which are closed or having to turn patients away because they don't have supplies or electricity. Many parts of the island remain flooded, with communications poor and long lines for generator fuel, food, and water. And even when supplies do arrive, the struggle is far from over.
There are more than 3,000 shipping containers here at the port, which are just sitting here. It's got everything they need. I literally said to somebody, what's on there? And they said, whatever you need, emergency supplies, anything that a grocery store would need. But it's just sitting here.